Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining us for this session, whether you're fighting for decades or whether you're more of a newcomer to the struggle. So we're all here because when we look at the world, we want to see things that change, and whether we feel anger or compassion or grief or hope when we're looking at the world around us, we all know that a better world is possible and we feel called to fight for it. So thank you for joining us in trying to answer some questions about how we do that. So I'd like to start exploring the question of, is a revolutionary approach in Britain possible, with a little bit about where I've come from and how I got to the path I'm on now. So I've been involved in radical grassroots organising in the UK for around a decade and a half. And for the first few years, like many of us, I was incredibly excited and inspired and hopeful and just really in love with the work I was doing. But as many of you know, after a while, all the groups and campaigns I was involved in dissolved or exploded due to internal politics, failure to reach our goals, or just, people dispersing to fight for newer, sexier issues or follow their careers or other commitments. So although I stayed involved in political organizing, I was often doing it with my head and not my heart. And I was doing it because I felt like it was necessary and not because I really felt like it was possible. So early in 2018, I found out that an old friend of mine, Anna Campbell, had traveled to Rojava in northeast Syria to join the revolution there, which was fighting for grassroots democracy, women's liberation, and ecological sustainability. A few weeks after I found out that she was there, Anna was killed by a Turkish airstrike while defending against the invasion of Afrin. And her death really shook me, not only because I lost someone who I really loved and cared about, but because it made me realize how much I myself had lost the ability to believe in something so hard that I was willing to risk my life for it. So soon after Anna died, I felt in my gut that I had to go to Rojava, and I felt the need to connect with the struggle that meant so much to her. I also really wanted to learn from the lessons that we could get from Rojava and bring them back to social movements in the UK, and also to a certain extent pick up where she left off and keep on fighting in her memory. So I arrived in Rojava not really knowing what to expect, and for the first 6 months I was involved in some ecological projects and also attended several weeks of educational courses for internationalists who had joined the work of the revolution in Rojava. For the second half of my time, it became clear that Turkey was about to launch another invasion, so I joined a media center so I could help with the press and information works. And I continued to work in that press center as Turkey invaded in October. I came back from the UK a couple of months ago, and now I'm trying to communicate some of the things that I learned over there and reconnect with social movements here. So it goes without saying that going to Rojava was one of the hardest experiences I've ever been through, but it was also one of the most healing experiences I've ever lived as well. From when I first arrived to when I left, I started to feel hope in the possibilities of fundamentally transforming the world we live in. To an extent, that hope came from what I was seeing around me. One really significant thing was being surrounded by women of all ages who called themselves revolutionaries, who were at the forefront of the revolution, either as military commanders or diplomats, heads of assemblies, community organizers, mothers and grandmothers, and being surrounded by women who had devoted their lives to the movement, from teenagers to elders, made me realize how much we're missing in the UK and how the wisdom and energy of older women are so often missing. So it made it possible for me to envision myself committing to this for the rest of my life and to reject that tired narrative of radical politics being just for the very young or the very deluded. And instead to stand shoulder to shoulder for the rest of my life with the women who have been through hell and back again and still held an unshakable belief in humanity and what we can accomplish when we're working together. So I also recognize, though, that the hope didn't come just from, what I was seeing, but also came from inside me, and I had transformed, and I'd started to think of myself as a revolutionary. So what is a revolutionary? It's definitely a word that we have a lot of discomfort with in the UK for a lot of reasons, and it's definitely not a word that I would have used to describe myself in the past. Not that it was a bad thing, but it's something that I would always use to describe other people and not myself. But I think it's really important that we shift our understanding of it and see a revolutionary not as someone who emerges from a revolution that's taking place, but to instead see revolutions as a product of revolutionaries and of social movements that have a revolutionary approach to political organizing. So how can we develop this revolutionary approach in a place like the UK? The UK in many ways is the core of capitalism, of imperialism, of state and border fascism, so surely it's the last place where we can talk about revolution. But there's an idea in the Kurdish freedom movement that in every place and every time there are seeds of liberation, of democracy, of communities in resistance, and to be a revolutionary means to align yourself with these instances, these tendencies, at the same time as also fighting the things that we're against. So we do this by knowing our histories, so we can connect to our heritage of resistance. And if we want to shape our future, we need to know our present, and you can only understand your present if you know your history. We also do it by deepening our understanding of what we're fighting for, so we can hold the political clarity that we need to make good choices while we navigate the difficult decisions and compromises that we need to do as we politically organize. And we also do it by rooting our political action and our whole lives in love. So love for the people we organize with, love for ourselves and where we come from, and also the people who have helped us grow. It's also about love for freedom, love for the natural world we live in, and for the humanity and communities that we're fighting for. We're also rooted in love for the social movements that have come before us and the people in them who have been killed or imprisoned. This is why Friends from the Movement give internationals a new name when we arrive in Rojava, the name of a revolutionary who's been killed in the struggle. And that's to make sure that they're remembered and that we know that our work is made possible by what they gave to the struggle. And once you're given the name of a revolutionary, the least that you can do is to strive to be a revolutionary yourself and to continue the work in whatever way is necessary, whether it's by doing media work, planting gardens, self-defense, or political education.